because I know that this was grown up at one point with a garden between the house and the work area down there. But because this area had been occupied during the Civil War and visited before, during, and after, we find a number of different things rooted down in here. I'm Bill Dias, and I am a local school educator here in Northampton County, retired military and government and all kinds of other stuff. And, excuse me, let me put my stuff away real quick. And when I'm not in a classroom, I'm usually out here looking for stuff to take into the classroom as part of my history and science classes for elementary school kids.
Very cool. How long have you been digging, Bill?
3 years now, I think. I got a detector in the 70s, like a lot of kids, and I went out looking for Blackbeard's treasure, spurred on by a book called The Witch of Pungo by Louise Venable Kyle. And so I had that detector in the 70s, but from all my efforts as a young man, I found a $5 bill on top of the sand, and that was about it. But then after life and the Army and Microsoft and all this other stuff, I was on my porch during the COVID shutdown as a at-home teacher during the COVID shutdown, and I looked in the corner as a Radio Shack detector, and I went, why not? Yeah. And I went out in my yard, which is the land grant on our house dates back to the 1630s, so, but I had no clue. And one of the first things I found was a KG2 coin in my front yard.
Your front yard, yeah.
And I was like, is that what this is all about? And I've been hooked ever since. So now I think I'm on my 6th metal detector, which you just helped me with. and we've been finding them ever since. So, but it opened up God, so much. You know, I can go on to the health and all that other stuff, but it opened up a whole new connection between me and my students. Now that we have a thing we call Smartifacts, where I actually get the kids to research the items that I find, discuss them, write about them, and publicly speak about them. So I use them almost daily in the classroom, and so a quirky thing that was sitting in my corner suddenly turned into my shtick, so to speak. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, that's cool.
It's not always a what was that thing again?
It was a bullet casing.
Bullet casing. Yeah.
It's not always trash or always treasure.
Sometimes it's just wonderful copper.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll keep on talking. I was going to walk down to the woods today. This kind of goes down to a wet area, and as it filters down, I theorize that the people came and went, and the workers came and went, and I find a pretty diverse number of items that down there, including modern day trash. But we'll work our way down there and see what we come up with. To understand is that with the new technology and with the new understanding of this technology, I'm finding things in places I had already hammered.
So this is the first, you're a long-time Deus user.
Yeah.
I mean, I say long time, but you used your Deus almost when you first started, right?
Yeah.
So you've got 3 good years under your belt, maybe a little longer. I mean, what was the transition to the Deus? Was it pretty easy from the 1 to the 2?
Yeah.
We've had some hiccups with our earphones and stuff like that, which we're getting better.
Yeah, well, I'm not an early adopter, so I kind of sat back and watched others, go through the and so my friends had gone to Deus 2 already, and so I had a good 2.5, maybe almost the 3 years on my Deus 1, and I don't think it's that big of a transition over to this. Obviously, there's some differences, but functionally, it's working the same. Physically, I'm working the same. My body just fit right back into this one, and at 62, that's important to me.
Right.
And I went to a smaller coil now, so I feel like I've just gotten, really light.
Right, because you were using the 11 and then even into the 13-inch coil, right?
And then same with the headset. This is like, it's not really even there.
Yeah.
Whereas before I was, so anyway, physically, it's an improvement for me, which I appreciate. The only real transition of you call this program this and I call it that from the up one is the sounds. The sounds are different. And my brain got very in tune with the sounds of the Deus One, where I could really weed out certain targets, understand what I was listening to, what the depth was, the location. You know, it became an extension of you know, me, so to speak. And so now I'm trying to get to that same point with this, because it has greater capabilities. It's reaching in deeper now than I was reaching, and so my mind and body has to adjust to that and those sounds. I'm told that I could download and upgrade the Deus One sounds if I want to do that, you know. But at the same time, you know, maybe I'm just going to learn a new thing. And where this is really helping me is to get beyond those other items and find that shotgun shell I want to dig. That's the, you know, my nickel sound.
Yeah,
buttons, but you know, every time I pull up a shotgun shell, I go, "Yep, that's exactly what it sounded like."
Yep, sounds just like a shotgun shell.
Yep.
You get a lot of permissions around here. You have any secrets to getting permissions?
That I'm willing to give away? No.
Well, I mean, nothing that you wouldn't. If someone was going, you know, I have a tough time getting permission. How would Bill approach that?
My secret, because I'm not the kind of guy to go knocking on doors. It's just not who I am.
Right. And I think that's a lot of people.
You know, I helped canvass for a political person one time, and knocking on doors horrified me. I just don't like bugging people.
Yeah.
But no, for me, it's connections. It's relationships. It's being involved in my community beyond this, doing a lot of things to working within my community, a lot of groups and whatnot that I work with, getting to know people and getting them to know me. Sometimes they express an interest in doing this, and that's what brings me, you know, to the fold. Sometimes they have an interest in the history, because I'm fascinated by the history of all this. I spend, you know, in the darkness, you know, hours researching and reading and trying to better understand the history connected to every one of these, the families and such. So a lot of people that have interest, you know, similar interests with me will invite me out and give me permissions, or I'll just, you know, flat out ask them, you know, do you ever want to know what's in your yard? And next thing you know, there we are, digging up their yard.
Right, it's that starting of a conversation.
Yeah, so for me, it's about relationships and talking with people. And, you know, I wish I had the talent to knock on doors, because there's some beautiful doors around here that I'd like to knock on, but it's just not who I am. But I think the relationships help, because that enriches my life at the same time, so it's not just about the artifacts. Lost track of where I was going with that one. I think it was in here. You gonna fish? You gonna cut bait? All right, let me start over again.
We gotta adjust your pinpointer a little bit too.
There we go. Yeah.
There it is.
Guess what? Oh, it's not every day that you get a pencil.
Oh.
There was some learning going on around here. Look, I even got the lead.
Oh, you gotta add some extra lead to your pencil.
That's it's always actually, when I dropped that thing, it's not necessarily a terrible thing for me, because I know that in addition to all the history that's associated with this ground that we're on today, a family lived here, and so I find, you know, on top of all this great historical stuff, I'll find the kids little Tonka toys, you know, little cars and stuff like that, and it tickles me. I found a pewter mouse out here. It was a really cool little, you know,
like a gaming piece?
Yeah, a little half-inch tall pewter mouse. I thought, what, colonial pewter mouse? No, it was 1970s, of course, during my childhood, the hippie years. So anyway, it's a pretty fun little place. Let's work our way down in here.
All right.
I'm gonna skip. switch it back and see what it sounds like on a different setting. Yeah. Same numbers, 76, 77. Try one more thing. Sensitive full tone.
There any sites that you found that like either really surprised you or that are like your go-tos, you know, like not just like the research and things like that, but are there things that you're like, oh man, I've got to go and hunt here?
Oh, yes. You know, like many people, I spend a lot of time looking at maps and map programs. And as far as around here, you have to understand that life in this particular area, in this cul-de-sac that we live in, peninsula, the life that I'm looking for didn't exist towards the roads. It existed back towards the water. Those were the roads. Those were how people came and went. So every time I'm looking at the maps, I'm looking at where did people travel to and from, what were they getting to, and for this particular age, it's always towards the water, because that was the entrance and that was the exit for both people. We also have necks, lots of necks, little, you know, bodies of water that separate us. So literally, if I wanted to talk to my neighbor, I would have to go a mile or two down here to get over to his side because of these little water necks that separate us. And so what that does is it drives people to center points at the head of the necks, you know, and out to the points. And so I like to work along those points. And oddly enough, when you look at that from a LiDAR situation, you can see that. You can see that where the high grounds are, where the people traveled, and where they stayed. And so I do a combination of understanding the traffic of human beings during the colonial period, as well as the mapping, the LiDAR, and where those intersect is usually where we find
good stuff.
And the reality is that, you know, it's a realty thing. Location, location, location.
Mm-hmm.
If it's cool for us to live there now and it's where we want to be, well, that's where somebody wanted to be 400 years ago also.
Yeah.
You know? So let's see what this thing was.
Yeah, that doesn't really change, especially like, you know, I'm a Civil War hunter, so I love the colonial period as well, but they, Civil War soldiers camp there today, they would camp there yesterday.
Well, and that's the same thing here. You know, there's certain areas that they covered and patrolled, and with regards to the way the water dictates their movements, that's where they camped. And so we can, you know, logically find where they would have stayed when they were doing their duties of occupation. And, you know, by and large, we've proven right. That's where we find the highest concentration of Civil War related items as well. So, including, and as with the Revolution and the War of 1812. You know, mm-hmm. British soldiers showed up at the same places that, you know, Northern and Southern soldiers showed up. Soldiers are soldiers. And so we find, you know, in places not just Civil War stuff, but we find Revolutionary War or War of 1812 in the same areas, just different layers. Mm-hmm. That's why, like those buttons that, you know, that you and I were talking about, where we found, you know, modern all the way through French buttons from the Revolution, as well as Northern and Southern buttons, all in the same field, because that's where they always stayed.
Right.
You gotta stop talking to me when I'm on a target, though. I forget what I'm digging.
That's the whole point of walking and talking.
Ah, it's a coin.
Oh.
Or a button. I want to get my head orked. It is. Oh.
What is it?
That.
Is it modern?
It's foreign.
It's a foreign coin. How about that?
Gonna have to do some checking on this one.
Wow, that's super cool. It feels like it's aluminum.
Yep, like I said, we get things in this place from all over the world and all over the historical spectrum. that's beautiful. This was this is what I didn't have last time we got together, and I was getting annoyed because I couldn't clean anything. And the snow was falling, the wind was blowing. There you go. Get my glasses.
I'm not real sure what that is, but that's cool.
We'll get my glasses out and find out.
Outline's here.
What do you think, young lady? It says Una Pasada. And it says Juan Carlos Rey de Espinada.
Spanish.
1975.
1975 Spanish. Outline, come here.
You just don't know what you're going to come up with in these places. That's what I love about it. So this will end up in my classroom on Monday morning, absolutely sure. So I love it.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then, I mean, now you have a group of kids telling a story about how that coin got here.
Yep, exactly. And for me, you know, I have a very diverse student population as well. And many of the kids in my classroom, their DNA and their names go back to the people who occupied these places for hundreds of years, which is kind of neat. But we also have a large number of kids from all over the world who are in my classes now. Spanish-speaking children, people from the Middle East. I just got a new student in from East Africa this week, you know. So linking and engaging kids that come from Spanish-speaking countries to Virginia history can be challenging. When you talk about the silver that we find, the connections of where these were minted, then they start perking up, you know, because I can go back and show a child that this was minted in Mexico City or in, you know, wherever it was, and then now I have another kid in the school paying attention. So that's what this I want to say hobby, but it's more of an obsession does for me. You know, it allows me to connect with people and kids in a way I never could before.
That's super cool, man.
I'm excited about a 1975 Mexican coin, you know. Cool. All right, what's next? Talk to anybody about anything. I think that was part of it. You know, I grew up right next to what is now Seashore State, First Landing State Park. When I was a kid, it was called Seashore State Park. In the 60s and 70s, I just roamed that place, you know, as a 10-year-old. You know, that was my playground. But it was full of sailors and, you know, Canadians and soldiers at Fort Story next door. And, you know, every day we'd be out there rolling around our bikes, hiking the trails, playing in the swamps, and talking to people from all over the world. It was a pretty cool place in the 60s and 70s, but it made me very comfortable with just talking to people and getting to know them. I did this the summer before I started detecting. I went on a road trip through southeast the United States, 6,000 miles, and I call it my rest stop revival because I just disconnected from my internet phone and took off and met people along the way. You know, it was a blast.
Yeah.
Did a lot of photography and a lot of historical research. It was the next winter that I found out about metal detecting, and now I'm planning my next 6,000 mile trip.
I bet it'll be a good one.
It should be. One thing I really like about this thus far, woo! One of the things I like about this thus far is the this new coil. The size of the coil is so much better for this kind of work. It's really easy to get around and get it in here and not get caught up. There goes another. Flushing birds.
All right, so if you had to pick, would you rather hunt a river or a beach?
Which river?
Well, I guess it's always the question.
Exactly. Which river and which beach? Probably a beach. just like fishing. I've always been a saltwater guy, and I just have this desire to find treasure on the beach. I really do.
Yeah.
So saltwater beaches are pretty near and dear to me anyway. And like everybody else, I've had the treasure hunting fever my whole life. So,
Campsite or home site?
home site, yeah. Because more stories, more people, more, you got families, diverse families. Campsite, it's like 10 or 12 of us all with the same opinion.
Yeah. Field or woods?
Woods. Woods for sure.
That sounds fairly decent.
I think it's coming in as iron. That's iron.
Is it?
Only bring it up as a 2.
Oh yeah, that's iron.
Yep. But because of the historical context out here, I'm going to dig it.
Do you find you dig many iron relics?
I find that sometimes the iron helps me find the other stuff, Iron can tell me whether it's, typically horse related, farm related, military related. Sometimes it's just, bean pots. But bean pots are important. When I find bean pots, I know somebody was eating there. And if they're eating there, then they're, fixing their jacket there. They're, gambling there. They're making bullets into game pieces. So, yeah, I think the iron helps to give me context of where I'm at. And if I'm in an area like this one, it could go either way. So it's worth taking a look to see what it is. And, just like that buckle that we were looking at earlier, whether it's an iron shoe buckle or a piece of horse tack, it still tells a story. Yeah, we're going to have to work on the sensitivity of this thing.
I think it felt like it was deeper.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was that deep. The other thing, you said field or woods. No, it's over here. In the woods, most items that I stay within situ, so to speak. Out here in the plowed fields, things get moved around quite a bit. Sometimes that helps by bringing them to the surface.
A lot of times it hurts by breaking them in pieces.
Exactly. So,
this is a big piece of iron. It's that deep.
whew. Yep.
Big nail. That thing hammered on that signal.
It really did. I mean, you would have thought it was a plowshare coming up. I don't even know that's a nail.
It doesn't really look like one. I found a gun tool sitting in a hole with a flat button one time.
I don't know.
It's definitely got a shape to it.
Definitely had a noise to it, like an attitude.
For sure. The soil is unbelievable here.
Yeah, we have a nice sandy, loamy soil. Good potato soil, historically, on that.
So, Bill, we'd like to thank you for being the first victim of Diggin Talk, or I don't know, whatever we call this this little adventure.
Goofing off in the field.
Yeah, goofing off in the field. Yeah. Thanks for sharing some stories and a little bit of your method and what you do. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, I just thanks for for your interest, obviously, and your support and your friendship. But yeah, join us. Get on out here and let's do it.
Yeah, right on.
Cheers.
Thanks, brother.